My name is Alana, and this is the story I swore I'd never tell. Not because I'm afraid of judgment, though I know it's coming, but because saying it out loud makes it real. And when something becomes real, it can't be buried anymore. I tried to bury it for almost a year. I tried to keep my smile perfect, my lies seamless, my guilt at bay. But the truth has teeth. It gnaws. And when it finally sinks in, it tears. My husband, Jason, was the kind of man people describe as too good to be true. Level-headed, steady, handsome in a quiet way. He was never loud or flashy, but he was the one you trusted in the middle of a storm. We met in college in Michigan. I was the messy art major. He was the calm engineer who knew how to fix things without drawing attention. I loved him. I still do. That's the part that makes this so hard. We moved to Oregon after we got married. Built a quiet life in a suburb just outside of Portland. We bought a modest house, raised 2 kids, Eli and Nora, and created routines. Traditions. Sundays at the park. Pancakes on birthdays. Late-night grocery runs when the cravings hit. That kind of stuff. But somewhere between dance recitals and broken washing machines, I changed. I didn't notice it at first. Neither did Jason. But it started like a whisper. A doubt. A voice inside me that said, "Is this it?" Then my sister came to visit. Her name's Riley. 2 years older than me, loud where I'm quiet, daring where I'm cautious. She was always the wild one. And last year, she did something everyone in our family whispered about behind closed doors. She had an affair. With a coworker. Left her husband. Started over like she was changing apartments, not lives. And the worst part? She didn't seem to regret it. She came to visit me a month after everything blew up, wearing new clothes, smelling like Chanel, talking about how life is too short to play house. I told her she was being reckless. That she had destroyed a good man. That she was selfish. She just laughed. "You're just mad because you don't have the nerve." The nerve. That word stuck with me. Like a sliver under the skin. I started watching Jason more closely. His routines. His silences. His long hours in front of the computer. He wasn't doing anything wrong. But something inside me twisted his normalcy into neglect. His comfort into boredom. I told myself I wasn't planning anything. That I was just curious. But curiosity is never innocent. Not when it grows in the cracks of a marriage. There was a guy at work. His name was Colin. He was new. Old. Way too confident. I ignored him the first few times he flirted. But then one afternoon I found myself smiling back. That smile was the beginning of the end. I didn't sleep with him that day. Not the next either. But I let something in. I let the lie start to grow in the corner of my mind. Right where guilt used to live. I told myself, it's just harmless attention. I told myself, Jason doesn't notice me anymore. I didn't tell myself the truth. The truth was I wanted to feel new again. Desired. Seen. Not just as mom. Or wife. But as Alana. Colin gave me that. And after a few weeks I gave him something too. The first time we kissed it was raining. I told Jason I was staying late for inventory. Instead, I let Colin kiss me in the parking lot behind a Thai restaurant. I remember the steam from the food carts, the way his jacket smelled like sandalwood. I remember the guilt came after, but not strong enough. That night, Jason was sitting on the couch half asleep waiting for me. He had even heated up my dinner. I kissed him on the forehead and went to bed early, claiming exhaustion. I hated myself. For an hour. Maybe 2. But then I slept. And then I did it again. For weeks I lived in 2 worlds. One where I packed school lunches, did PTA meetings, kissed Jason goodbye. And another where I was the reckless woman in the back seat of a stranger's car, making excuses to myself. I told myself it was a phase. That Jason would never find out. That eventually I'd get bored of the thrill and come back to my senses. I thought men were the only ones who lived double lives. That women were more grounded. I was wrong. I wasn't grounded, I was buried. In lies. In the fantasy of being wanted without responsibility. But fantasies have expiration dates. And mine came the night I left my phone in the laundry room. Jason found it. He wasn't looking through it. He hates invading privacy. But it buzzed. And the message lit up the screen like a flare gun in the dark. Can't stop thinking about yesterday. You taste like sin. The silence when he brought me the phone was worse than any yelling. He didn't speak. Just handed it to me, stared into my eyes like he didn't recognize the person behind them, and walked out. That's how it ended. Not with a bang, but with a single sentence lit on a screen. Jason didn't come home that night. He didn't text. He didn't call. I sat in our kitchen, staring at the untouched dinner I had made hours earlier, waiting for the sound of the garage door. I waited until the sky turned black, until Nora woke up crying from a nightmare, until the hum of the refrigerator felt louder than my own heartbeat. And still nothing. I knew what I had done, and I knew it was bad. But some part of me believed he would come back that night. That he'd walk in with tired eyes, sit across from me in silence and say something like, "We'll figure this out." That didn't happen. Instead, I got a text the next morning. "Don't tell the kids anything yet. I need time." Time. Such a vague word. Can mean hours, days, or the end of everything. I called Riley that day. My sister. The one who had convinced herself that stepping out of her marriage was just a shift in identity. She picked up on the first ring. "Wow. That was fast," she said. I didn't like her tone. "Jason found out," I said, swallowing hard. She exhaled like she had just heard a weather report. "Okay. So what's your plan?" "My plan? Yeah. You need to decide now. Do you want him back? Or are you ready to be free? Because there's no middle anymore." Free. It used to sound empowering when Riley said it. But now it sounded like falling into an ocean with rocks tied to your ankles. "I don't want to lose him," I whispered. She didn't say anything for a moment. Then finally, "You might have already." That night Jason came back, but not to talk. He came for clothes. I stood in the doorway wearing his old hoodie, the one he always said made me look like a teenager. He didn't even look at me. Just packed a suitcase. Mechanical. Cold. He was dressed in jeans and a gray shirt, the same one he wore on our second anniversary. I didn't know if that was a coincidence or punishment. "Jason," I said, my voice trembling. "Please. Can we talk?" He zipped the suitcase, finally looking up. His eyes were red, but dry. Angry, but calm. Somehow that was worse. "Talk about what? You want to explain how a phase turned into months? How many times do I need to imagine you lying to my face before I stop throwing up every time I close my eyes?" I flinched. "I made a mistake." He laughed. Not because it was funny, but because he couldn't believe I'd said that. "A mistake," he said, voice tight. "Spilling coffee is a mistake. Forgetting a birthday is a mistake. What you did was a choice. Over and over." I tried to step forward. "Jason, please. You don't understand." "No," he cut me off. "You don't understand. You broke something I can't glue back together just because you feel bad now." He walked out. And this time I knew he wasn't coming back. The kids started noticing the change. Nora was the first. She asked why Daddy was on a trip again when he missed her school play. Eli, older and more observant, didn't ask. He just stopped talking at dinner. I told them Jason was staying at Uncle Mark's for work. A half-lie. He was staying with Mark. But not for work. Just to get away from the wife he couldn't look at anymore. I told myself I would confess. Someday. When they were older. When it would hurt less. But every day I waited, I became more of the person I hated. Someone who hides truth behind bedtime routines and school drop-offs. Colin tried to reach out. First I ignored him. Then I met him one last time. We sat in his car. Same place as before. Same routine. But nothing felt the same. "I think Jason's filing for separation," I said quietly. Colin reached for my hand. I pulled away. "What are we doing?" I asked. He smiled, confused. "What do you mean?" "This. I blew up my life for this. And now I don't even know why." He shrugged. "You were unhappy." "No, I was stupid." Silence. "I thought you were different," he finally said. "I thought I was too," I replied. That was the last time I saw Colin. He stopped texting after that. Good. I didn't want a backup plan. I wanted to face the wreckage with both eyes open. 3 weeks later, Jason sent an email. No subject line. Just words. "Alana.
I've contacted a mediator.
We'll need to meet soon to go over logistics, kids, assets, house. I'm not interested in blame. Just resolution. I'm still trying to understand how we got here. I don't hate you, but I can't trust you. And I don't think I can ever be in a room with you without seeing everything I don't want to remember. I'll be civil. For the kids. Jason. I read that email 10 times. Memorized it. Cried over it. Slept with it open on my phone screen like a prayer. That was the day I understood. It wasn't just about what I did. It was about what I destroyed. And he had every right to walk away from the ashes. I didn't contest the mediation. I showed up. Hair pulled back, no makeup, shaking hands holding a coffee I didn't drink. Jason sat across the table not looking at me, only at the paperwork. He spoke to the mediator, not to me. Every question came like a formality, every answer like a bullet. What's best for the kids? We'll alternate weeks. I'll take them Sundays to Fridays. Do you want to keep the house? No, Jason said without hesitation. She can have it. I flinched. Not because I wanted the house but because of the way he said she. Like I wasn't even Alana anymore. Just a stranger occupying space where his wife used to live. We didn't fight. We didn't scream. That would have been easier actually. Passion means there's something still burning. But we were cold. Polite. Like two co-workers signing off on the end of a failed project. After the meeting I followed him to the parking lot. Jason, I said. Please wait. He stopped but didn't turn around. I want to say something. You already said everything. With your actions. I stepped in front of him. I never stopped loving you. His jaw tightened. He looked past me. I loved you when I was being stupid. I loved you through the lies. And I love you now. That never changed. He finally looked me in the eyes. Then why did you treat me like I didn't matter? I opened my mouth, but there was no answer that would fix what I broke. I don't know, I said. That's the worst part, he whispered. You don't even know. Then he got in his car and drove away. And for the first time I realized this might not be a chapter. This might be the end of the book. That night I broke. Not in a loud dramatic way. Not with screaming or smashing plates. I just sank. In the middle of our bedroom. The bed still smelled like him. His old sneakers were still by the door. The closet was half empty. I stared at the dent his pillow used to make. And I cried. For hours. I cried for the life I let rot. For the trust one threw away like it meant nothing. For every morning I woke up next to Jason and didn't realize how lucky I was. For every night I smiled and lied and pretended we were still okay. I didn't sleep that night. Didn't eat the next day either. I just sat with my mistakes. Riley texted me. Still not too late to start over. You're free now. I didn't answer. Because freedom without forgiveness isn't freedom. It's exile. A week later Eli asked, why don't you and Dad talk anymore? We were at the kitchen table eating cereal. Nora was at a sleepover. It was just me and my 12-year-old son. He looked like Jason. Same quiet eyes, same habit of stirring his food before eating it. I froze. Did you and Dad have a fight? I took a breath. Yes. We did. Is he mad at you? I nodded. Yes. Will he stop being mad? I blinked back tears. I don't know. He stared at his bowl then looked up. Did you lie to him? That one hit me like a truck. Yes, I whispered. I did. He didn't speak. He didn't scold me. He just nodded like he was too young to understand but old enough to feel the shift. I felt like the worst mother alive. Later that night, I found a letter under my pillow. From Jason. It wasn't long. I wanted to write instead of speak, because it's easier to be honest when I'm not staring at your face and remembering things I wish I could forget. I read somewhere that grief is love with no place to go. I didn't understand that until now. I still love you. I probably always will. But that love has nowhere to go now. It's like water in a bottle with no cap. Just waiting to spill over and make a mess. I don't know if I'll ever trust you again. But I wanted you to know that I'm not trying to punish you. I'm trying to survive. You were my person. My safe place. And you turned that into something sharp. That's what hurts the most. I held that letter to my chest like it was air and I had forgotten how to breathe. That weekend I saw Jason at the school fundraiser. He was volunteering at the drink table. He looked tired. Older. But still the same. I stood across the gym, watching him laugh politely with another parent. Our eyes met. He didn't smile. But he didn't look away either.
I walked over.
Hey, I said, barely able to speak. Silence. You look good, I added stupidly. He nodded. Thanks. We stood there like strangers. I liked your letter, I said softly. He glanced at me. I didn't write it for you to like. I wrote it because I needed to say it. I know. We were quiet again. Then he handed me a bottle of water. I took it, and for one brief second our fingers touched. There was no spark, no music, just two people sharing the same quiet grief. And for now that had to be enough. I stopped lying after that. To Jason, to the kids, to myself. It didn't change the past, but it changed me. I started therapy. Not because I thought it would win Jason back, but because I needed to understand why I threw away something good, why I became someone I didn't even like. My therapist's name was Marla. She was kind but not soft. She made me answer questions I didn't want to hear, let alone say out loud. Do you think you were lonely? Yes. Did Jason make you feel invisible?
No.
I made myself feel invisible. What did Colin give you that Jason didn't? An escape. From my own emptiness. That last one gutted me. Because the truth is, I had blamed Jason for years for something he never did. I created a void in myself and expected him to fill it. When he couldn't, I looked elsewhere. Not because he failed, but because I was already halfway gone and too proud to admit it. Riley stopped calling. I think even she saw the damage this time wasn't something you could walk away from with a new haircut and a new zip code. Her mess was manageable. Mine wasn't. Jason was doing better. I heard it from the kids, from mutual friends, from the way he carried himself at school events, calm, collected, focused on Eli and Nora like his world was finally centered around something stable again. I hated how much that hurt, but I also admired him for it. He didn't fall apart. He didn't spiral. He just moved forward. Without me. A month passed without contact. Then two. And then out of nowhere he called. Hey, he said. Can we talk? My heart stopped. Yes. Of course. I'm outside. I opened the door and there he was. Leaning against his car like it hadn't been over 60 days since I last heard his voice in real time. He walked in slowly. Like he wasn't sure if it was a mistake. We sat on opposite sides of the kitchen table. The same table where I used to leave him handwritten notes. The same table where we celebrated birthdays, anniversaries, and later. Nothing at all. I wanted to say this in person, he started. Because I didn't want to leave you guessing. I waited, breath held hostage in my throat. I filed the divorce papers. There it was. The ending. The final nail. I understand, I said quietly. I'm not going to fight it. He nodded. I didn't come here to ask for forgiveness. I just needed closure. I swallowed hard. Can I ask you something? He hesitated. Yeah. Do you hate me? He looked at me for a long time. Too long. No, he finally said. That would be easier. He stood up. And then as he reached for the door I asked, do you ever think about the beginning? He paused. His back still turned. Every day. Then he left. And this time I didn't cry. I just sat in the silence. And let it echo. A week later I told Eli and Nora the truth. Not the ugly details. But the part that mattered. That's why Daddy and I aren't together anymore. I said, my voice shaking. Because I hurt him. I made a big mistake. They stared at me.
Ellie nodded slowly.
Nora didn't say anything. She climbed into my lap and buried her face in my shoulder.
I'm sorry, he whispered.
You didn't deserve this. He didn't either. Eli finally spoke. Does Dad still love you? I think he loves who I used to be. Can you be that person again? I smiled even though it hurt. I'm trying. Months passed. The papers came through. Official. Final. Cold. Jason moved into a house a few blocks away. Close enough for co-parenting. Far enough for distance. We became civil. We shared drop-offs, school meetings, doctor appointments. We smiled in front of the kids. Laughed sometimes even. But it was never the same. How could it be? He had been the center of my world. And I had fractured his. But something strange happened in the cracks. We started talking again. About the kids mostly. But then about books, weather, politics, life. He'd text me about Eli's math grades or Nora's new obsession with bugs. I'd send him pictures of their art projects. One day he asked if I wanted to come with them to the science fair. "I'll stay on my side," I joked. "You're always on our side," he replied. That text stayed with me. The science fair was easy. We walked together like a family again. Not a broken one, just a changed one. When Nora won second place, Jason lifted her in the air and laughed. Then he looked at me and smiled. Not out of pity, not out of pain, just smiled. And for the first time in a long time, I felt like I hadn't ruined everything. Just enough to start again. But the next day, everything changed again. I got a call from Riley. I almost didn't pick up. "Alana," she said, voice low, "you need to sit down." "What is it?" "I saw Colin. With someone. She was pregnant." My heart twisted. "So," I said, "I haven't talked to him in months." "I know. But he said something. He said it might be yours." When Riley said those words, everything stopped. He said it might be yours. It didn't make sense at first. My breath caught in my throat, and I just sat there, phone pressed to my ear, mind racing through months I thought I had buried. I hadn't seen Colin in over half a year. I hadn't spoken to him since the night I told him it was over. Could he be lying? Stirring chaos out of spite? Or had I missed something? I barely whispered. "That's not possible." Riley was quiet. "Are you sure?" I closed my eyes. The timelines. The gaps. The nights I skipped birth control without thinking because I assumed wrongly that it didn't matter. I don't know." She exhaled. "He didn't say it with certainty, Alana. Just implied it. But I thought you should know." My hands were trembling as I hung up the phone. "Pregnant? No, that couldn't be true. I would have noticed. Wouldn't I?" The next day I took a test. I knew I wasn't pregnant now, but I needed to know if I had been. Maybe there was a missed period I'd brushed off. Maybe the exhaustion and nausea I thought were stress had been something else. I went to the doctor. I asked them to run a full blood panel, including HCG levels and hormonal markers that might indicate a recent pregnancy. And a week later I got the call. "Mrs. Taylor," the nurse said, "our results show you were likely pregnant sometime within the past 6 months. It looks like it may have resulted in an early miscarriage, possibly one you didn't notice or mistook for a heavier cycle." I dropped the phone. That night I sat on my bathroom floor for hours. My body had gone through something I didn't even notice. Something that might have changed everything. And the worst part? I didn't know if the child was Jason's or Colin's. I didn't sleep for 3 days. When I looked at Eli and Nora, I saw all the ways I'd failed them. Not just by breaking our family, but by becoming someone who couldn't even be honest with herself. I didn't want to tell Jason. What good would it do? But lies were what got me into this mess in the first place. So I told him. I asked him to meet me at the old coffee shop near the park. The one we used to walk to before we had kids. Back when we still held hands just to hold them. He sat across from me, sipping tea, not knowing his world was about to shift again. "There's something you need to know," I said, voice shaking. I went to the doctor. After a conversation with Riley, I told him everything. The possibility, the miscarriage, the timing. He didn't interrupt, didn't flinch, just listened. And then he said the last thing I expected. If it was mine, I would have wanted to know. If it wasn't, I still would have wanted to know. "I'm so sorry," I whispered. He nodded slowly. "You didn't even know it happened." "I'm not angry about that. But it still matters." "Yes," he said. "Because it's part of the whole picture now." I wiped tears from my face with the sleeve of my coat. "Jason," I asked gently, "do you think there's any part of you that could ever forgive me? Not to go back, but just so I can breathe again." He stared at his tea for a long time. Then he looked up. "I've been trying to hate you," he said. "I really have. But every time I look at our kids, I see the good parts of you. And the truth is, I don't think I ever will hate you." I started crying again. Forgiveness isn't a gift I'm ready to give today. But maybe someday. For their sake. For mine. For yours. He stood. Before leaving, he said something I'll never forget. I don't know if healing looks like a reunion, but I know it has to start with truth. And this was a start. That night, I walked into Nora's room and just watched her sleep. She was 7 years old. So small. So innocent. And already living through the fallout of her mother's mistakes. I kissed her forehead, sat beside her and whispered, "I'll be better." For the first time in months I meant it. Few weeks passed. Jason and I slowly began speaking more. Not just texts or logistics but real conversation. We talked about co-parenting. About routines. About how to support the kids better. He even asked how my therapy was going. We didn't talk about the baby. Or the possibility of it being his. That truth was too heavy to pick up again. Not yet. But we were rebuilding something. Even if it wasn't love in the romantic sense, it was something resembling mutual care. A new form of connection. Then one afternoon, Eli got into a fight at school. It wasn't serious. Just pushing and yelling. But it shook both of us. We sat outside the principal's office together, silent and scared. Then Jason reached over and held my hand. Just for a moment. And that small gesture broke something inside me. Or maybe it healed something. Later that night he texted me, "Whatever we become next, let's promise one thing. No more lies." I replied, "I swear. Never again." And then came the letter. One day in early spring, Nora found a small envelope tucked into the mailbox. It was unmarked. No return address. Just our last name. Inside was a single piece of paper. Typed, "I'm sorry for what I said. It wasn't mine. I just wanted to hurt you. I see now that was a mistake. I hope you find peace. See, Colin." Jason read it. Then folded it quietly. "It doesn't change what happened," he said. "No," I agreed. "But it changes what could have happened." He nodded. And for the first time I saw a flicker in his eyes. Not love. Not yet. But maybe. Hope. Spring turned to summer. The air felt warmer, softer. Like the world was starting to breathe again. Jason and I didn't get back together. Not in the way people expected.